Now, when do you use, now we notice, remember that in the feminine forms, we said that there's times when you use eta, ein, I, and os, and sometimes when you use alpha, on, I, os. When do you use these forms for the nominative, accusative, singular, and plural? The rule is if the root, the stem, ends with either an epsilon, an iota, or a rho, you will use the alpha endings, not the eta endings. You don't use the eta endings when it's an epsilon, iota, or rho word. So hora means hour, Hora means hour. And notice that here is your stem. It ends in a rho. Therefore, it takes the alpha ending. We have other nouns that do that. Here's another one. Hamartia. This means sin. It's a big word used in the New Testament. Hamartia. This is the stem, hamarti. And notice that it ends with an iota. And remember, if it ends with an epsilon, an iota, or a rho, it will use these alpha endings and not the eta endings. So what would hora look like then if we filled out the paradigm? It would be hora, horon, horai, horos. And so this would be an hour. If I use it as subject of the sentence, hora is not enough. I took an hour for lunch. I took a horon, accusative case, for lunch. The hours of the day sped by, the subject of the sentence. I would use the word horai to talk about a plural use of hours and as the subject. And I spent hours doing my Greek homework. If I use it as a direct object, then I use horos. So let's say this. Hora, horon, horai, horos. Again, hora, horon, horai, horos. Very good. Now, we're now to the last part of our grammar lesson for this module, and that's the definite article. And in many ways, you might not realize it as we were going along, but you were learning the definite article as you was also learning the case endings. So let's review the noun and case endings again. Remember that the masculine case endings for a word like logos is os, on, oi, us. For the feminine case endings, it's a, ein, hi, has. And for the neuter case endings, it's on, ha, ah. On, ah. Now, the way you form the definite article is you take the exact same case endings. You take these case endings and you either add a rough breathing mark to it or a tau, and that's the definite article. And the definite article, by the way, is oftentimes we translate it as the. So if I just don't want to say a book or a word, I want to say the word or the book, I would want to put a Greek definite article in front of it in order to have the word the as part of what I write. And so how do I say the? Well, in English, we just use the for anything. It's just one word regardless of how the word is used in the sentence. But in Greek, that is not the case. If you use the word, a word, let's say a word, or like logos, as the subject of the sentence, it's going to want a nominative singular article, ha logos, that's the word. And it will use a different article, let's say ton, logon. If I use it as a direct object, it's going to use a different article. So if I say I spoke the word, I can't use the same article as I would use for the subject. If I'm using log on, the word as the direct object of the sentence, I have to use the right definite article. And so if this noun is nominative singular masculine, then this definite article also has to be nominative singular masculine. And if this is a direct object, this is an accusative singular masculine, then the article I have to use is also accusative singular masculine. It has to match, the article has to match in case, that's accusative or nominative, the number, whether it's singular or plural, and in the gender, whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. So what are the definite articles? Nominative, singular, accusative, singular, nominative, plural, and accusative, plural for the masculine, feminine, and neuter endings. You take the case endings for the nouns, the same case endings here, and then you add either a rough breathing mark or a tau to it. And where I've shaded the chart is you have to tweak it a little bit. The only for mostly the nominative singular and accusative singular endings is the endings a little bit different than just simply adding rough breathing mark or tau. But for the most part, you're using the same case endings and you're adding a rough breathing mark and tau. So let me clear this up a little bit and let's fill this out. So I'm going to fill in the white first because that'll make things simpler, and then I'll fill in the gray. So how do I form the definite article for the masculine accusative singular form? Well, I know that the noun ending is on, and here I just add a tau to it, ton. And then how about the plural form? Well, I know that the ending is oi, and here I add a rough breathing mark, hoi. And then I know the ending for the plural forms is us for the nouns. So the definite article would be tus. For the feminine, let me just write out all the case ending. It's a, ain, I, and os. So how do I form the definite article? Well, the definite article is hey. The accusative singular form is tain. I add a tau to it. I add a rough breathing mark, so it's high, and I add a tau here. It's ta. So notice what I've done. I've taken the same endings here, and I've either added a rough breathing mark or a tau to it, and that's the definite article. All these definite articles, ton, hoi, tus, hey, tain, hi, tos, they're all translated the. But you can only use these articles with the corresponding noun that it modifies. So if the noun is used as a direct object, you have to use a direct object article. If it's used as a subject, you have to use a subject article. If it's plural, you have to make sure that your article is plural if the subject's plural, and so on. So so let's fill out the neuter forms. The neuter forms, if you have alpha here and alpha here, just add a tau to it, ta, and those are your definite articles for the nominative, plural, and accusative plural forms. So what about these shaded boxes? Well, the shaded boxes reflect a slight variation. It's a little bit more than writing in the rough breathing mark and tau to it. So let's take, for example, ha, os. That's the ending for the noun. But what does a definite article look like? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to erase the sigma because that's not part of it. And then you write in a rough breathing mark ha. So it's a little bit different. That's why we shaded it. So the nominative singular masculine definite article, the, is ha, all right, for masculine second declension nouns. It's hey for the feminine nouns. And then what about the neuters? Well, the neuters have the nouns end in on, nouns end in on, but we have to drop the news here. And once after we drop the news, we add a tau to it, and those are the definite articles for the neuter nouns, ta. So let's say the definite article. Let's kind of go over it. So that we're just going to say the definite articles out loud. So for the masculine definite articles, nominative, singular, accusative, singular, and plural. Let's say it. It's ha, tan, hoi, tus. Say it with me. Ha, tan, hoi, tus. For the feminine, it's he, tain, hai, tas. Say it again. He, tain, hai, tas. And then for the neuters, it's ta, 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 ta. Yes, they're all pronounced the same. A short omicron and a short alpha sound similar. It's ta, 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 ta. But notice that the spelling is different. It's omicron for the singular forms and alpha for the plural forms. So the golden rule for the use of the article again is that the article always agrees with the noun it modifies. Whatever article you use, it has to have the same case, it has to have the same number, it has to have the same gender. So let me give you an example really quickly. So one of these is incorrect. We have tus, lagus, and we have tas, lagus. Which one's correct? Well, it's this one. The reason why is this is an accusative plural masculine noun. A masculine noun. Therefore, it wants an accusative plural masculine definite article. If I want to say the words as a direct object, I would say tus lagus. Tas doesn't work because yes, it's plural, and yes, it's accusative, but this is a feminine article. It doesn't match the same gender as lagus, which is masculine, so I can't use it. So the rule is the article, all three have to match. The case has to be the same, the number has to be same, singular, plural, and the gender has to be the same. You have to match the direct article, the definite article, with the noun, and you have to use the right definite article with the right noun. So having said that, that concludes the grammar for the